we're all looking at, okay, they need to add a big. They need to go ahead and address somebody that can come in and be a rim protector.
Well, that's what they're saying. That's what Mark Cuban said after the game. That's what Nico Harrison's been talking about here when he's met with the media. They have been loud about the fact that we need rebounding, we need rim protection.
Yeah, it's evident, right? Looney's a free agent, 24 years old. Now, that guy, I'm sure, will probably want to return to Golden State, especially if they win a championship. But that's a team that I don't know how much money they're going to have to spend. The Mavs aren't exactly a team that's going to have a ton of money to spend either, but I would love to go ahead and add a dude in Kevon Looney, who is a rebounding machine. That's a name to look at, because I don't think you're going to get a DeAndre Ayton. I mean, I would love to get Ayton.
No.
I'd take Ayton over Gobert personally, but I just don't see how the Suns, when he's a restricted free agent, even if you were to sign him, to a max deal, if the Mavericks even could, and the Suns say we're not going to match it, I just don't see any way the Ayton thing's a possibility, realistically. And Gobert, I don't know that the Mavericks really are interested in Gobert from some of the people that I've tried to get a feel for maybe what the Mavericks are thinking there.
Well, Mark Stein just put out his report where, hey, there's been a lot of noise surrounding the Mavericks and Rudy Gobert, but the way he puts it is basically there will not be an all-out pursuit of the All-Star center in regards to the Dallas Mavericks. So it's not like they don't want him, but they're not going to – it's not like they're putting all their eggs in the Gobert basket and they're saying this is the player that we need, because he is expensive and there are things about his game that can be a little bit frustrating for you. Now, if the Mavericks did have him, it would be a massive upgrade, and you're probably talking about the single best rim protector in the sport. But that's going to be a very costly thing from a financial standpoint and probably from an asset standpoint of what you have to give up to get him. But Mark Stein's telling you that's not necessarily the route that the Mavs are going to go all in on. And I do wonder if they consider it, hey, it is very important to have this. They're being loud about it. We need rim protection. We need we need a big man who can do some rebounding for us. But do they view that position in today's basketball as something where we can go a little bit cheap there and still find somebody that's sufficient and can play that role for us? I don't know that they feel like, hey, we have to have a max contract rim protector like a Rudy Gobert. Seems like they're still more interested, again, according to Mark Stein. Zach LaVine is somebody that they're really interested in, and so if they're interested in him, he's the type of guy that would be max money type playing. And so, but as the sport is right now, those are probably, the wing guys, your guard guys, your combo guys are probably the guys you want to give the max money to, as opposed to the big man Gobert types.
Agreed.
Right?
I love everything you said there. I would much rather pay for a Zach LaVine than I would pay for a Rudy Gobert. I think we've seen how Rudy Gobert gets exposed in the playoffs. Now, he might not get exposed on this Mavericks roster as much as he did against in Utah. I think the Mavericks have better perimeter defenders than the Jazz do to help him in that area if he got stretched out. But that would be a concern for me. I think when you look at the teams right now that are about to be in the finals, I do think it's going to be Boston and Golden State. They're not paying big money for their bigs. Unless, if you want to include Al Horford maybe for Boston, even that's a deal that I don't know that they're in love with right now.
He's been special in this series, I will say. But
Robert Williams is not.
Robert Williams is cheap.
Making a lot of money now. Now he might end up making a lot of money, but Golden State's not. Wiseman not even playing for them. They're going to have to make some decisions. But and that's a reason why I think Looney's a guy that they might part with, and you might be able to get him for not a ton of money. So I like that idea of if you can acquire one of these guys, not the big name Ayton or Gobert, but you get a Looney. I know I've seen some texts about John Collins. That's a name that the Mavericks have been linked to quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Atlanta might be one of those teams that looks to retool this offseason.
Yeah, and then there's the younger guys like a Mo Bamba that you could probably get for much cheaper. Now, he might still end up being priced out of where the Mavericks are at here, but I think a Mo Bamba would be a name to kick around. Isaiah Hartenstein is a young guy. Mitchell Robinson, like these aren't big type names, but these are guys that maybe like mid-level exception stuff and trades, and there's ways to pull this off, and so I think there's ways to go about it where you don't have to just say, oh, we're going to throw max money at a Gobert for the rim protection. But clearly that is something that they know that, like, that feels like from the way they're talking, that's kind of priority number one is, hey, we need to get somebody to where we're not getting out rebounded by double digits in these big games. We need to get somebody who to where it's not, they're not just walking scot-free into the paint and getting easy layups and things. And so that's where Nico and Mark are talking about it. But I think that a Zach LaVine and something like that, a secondary scoring option creator, more of a number two, a guy who can hit that 3-point shot, that's something that they're obviously interested in as well. So, but there's a lot of obstacles when it comes to making things work. I mean, you're talking about a luxury tax team here. It's not like they have a ton of flexibility. There's always ways to do something, and I think the Mavericks do have a great kind of capologist guy who they got from Brooklyn, and so that, like, they'll be able to figure out ways to do it. Hopefully, they can get super creative. But it's not necessarily going to be the easiest thing in the world.
So you got some in-house trade options, right? So you've got two players that other teams covet. If you want to do a sign and trade deal with Brunson, I don't think they want to get rid of Dorian Finney-Smith, but that would be a player that teams like. You've also got a few players on expiring contracts in 2022, 2023 that could create some space. Powell's got $11.1 million, Kleba with $9.2 million. On the final years of their deal, and then Dinwiddie with $19.5 million. And he doesn't have a guaranteed deal for the final year for 2023, 2024, and then Bertans at $16 million. Like, people are asking, well, where's the Mavericks' money? It's split between Dinwiddie and Bertans right now. I mean, essentially, you lost the KP contract, but you split it between picking up Dinwiddie and Bertans. So that's where the majority of their money is being eaten up right now, between those two. But you have some in-house trade options, and most likely if the Mavericks wanted to make a big splash, it's going to have to be via trade.
Yeah. And the other thing is there's a deadline on where they're at with some of these dates. Like they have basically an $11 million trade exception that was created in the Josh Richardson deal to Boston. That expires on June 27th. So the Mavericks can acquire a player earning up to $11 million, basically. Now, they can't split that and make it two, where it's like you get two $5 million players, but you can get like an $11 million player. And so do they have a chance to do that before basically a month from today? Like all these deadlines and things like that are going to be, they could be obstacles, but I'm excited to see what they do. I want to see the Nico relationships and the Jason Kidd relationships, which is what they sold us on when they put this regime together a year ago. And so let's see what type of things that he can move and what he can persuade and get some of these guys to say, yeah, I want to be in Dallas, force their way here.
If you look at, I was kind of just looking at something with Zach LaVine, like those numbers that he had. And when we were scouting, in NFL, and you were looking at a free agent player, you were looking at how did he play against teams within your division or in your conference. And you look at Zach LaVine, what his numbers are shooting like it's a 3-point shooter against the Western Division or the Western Conference, excuse me. I mean, his numbers, he's damn near 40. He's somewhere between, really, I could do the quick math. I need Heggie here to do this. But if you look at it, he's like 44%, 40%, 50%. 46%, 1,000%, 50%, 50%, 48%, 42%. Those are his numbers against 3-point shooting against the Western Conference teams. So sometimes when you go and evaluate a player, you're thinking like, well, damn, he plays well against the opponents that we have to deal with, So I was just curious because they're talking about him as a 3-point shooter and stuff like that. And we always used to say, well, how did he play against us? How did this guy, when we're signing this guy, thank God we don't have to play against him anymore, because he's now with us. But this guy's, he knocks down a lot of shots against these teams in the Western Conference. Big 3-point shots too. So maybe that's something that the Mavericks are looking at. Like, if this guy plays well against these opponents, maybe that's the guy that kind of helps us get over the hump.